So whether you're fighting for a soccer ball, vying for the best grades, or even competing for a certain guy or girl, it all comes down to survival of the fittest, natural selection. And in this video, I'm going to talk you through how natural selection really works in the world around us. So the basic concept of natural selection is that animals with desirable characteristics are able to survive and reproduce offspring with those characteristics, causing the animal to evolve and adapt to its environment over time. For example, let's say that my house had a colony of termites and I used a certain termite spray to kill them. Well, they would all die, right? Well, what if there was just a certain group of maybe 10 or 20 termites who had some genetic immunity to this spray? Well, it's fair to say that they would survive against the termite spray I'm using and just repopulate the species. My floorboards would still be cooked. Let's delve into the more technical side of things. Natural selection can only happen in the face of a danger or a threat, such as a termite spray in my example. These are called selection pressures and ensures that only those animals which are suited to survive in the face of those pressures can actually survive those pressures. So selection pressures can be categorized into two factors, abiotic factors and biotic factors. Abiotic factors refer to selection pressures which don't involve any living organisms. Such pressures can include weather conditions, temperature, nutrient levels, and light intensity. On the other hand, biotic factors refer to selection pressures which involve living organisms, such as things like predators and parasites and diseases. So let's delve more into the specifics of how certain populations can survive against selection pressures. Now this section is pretty keyword heavy, so make sure you're paying attention. So the first thing we are going to define is the term allele. So the scientific definition of an allele is the specific sequence of DNA on a specific point on a chromosome of a specific chromosome. That's a lot to take in, but let's break it down with an example. So let's look at this diagram of a pair of chromosomes on the screen. Imagine that one of them is from the mother's side and the other one is from the father's side. So let's imagine that the base sequence at the tip of each chromosome determines your eye color. We could say that the one from the mom's side coded for brown eyes and maybe the one on the father's side coded for blue eyes. Therefore, you can say that the mother had the allele for the brown eye and the father had the allele for the blue eyes. So now let's move on to talking about the gene pool. The gene pool refers to all the different alleles and traits which are present within the organisms in a specific population. The size of the gene pool is critical to maintain the population in the face of selection pressures. If the gene pool is quite large and diverse, then there's a good chance that there will be some individuals in that population which can survive against a certain selection pressure and then keep reproducing and maintaining the population. If the gene pool is smaller, then there's a lower chance that there are individuals in that population which can survive against any selection pressures that come against it, which could really place the population at threat. The gene pool can be increased or decreased due to this factor called gene flow. Gene flow refers to the different alleles and traits which enter and exit a population through migration. If the gene flow increases in terms of the alleles which flow into the population, then the more diverse the alleles are going to be, the larger the gene pool, and the more robust the population becomes against selection pressures. This also works in the reverse direction. If the gene flow increases with the alleles leaving the population, that gene pool is going to become a lot smaller. So let's head back to that termite analogy we started this video with. Imagine if inside that termite colony there was such a large gene pool with so many diverse alleles and physical characteristics, then surely a few of those individuals would have a favorable allele in order to survive against my termite spray. These will be the only creatures which can survive and reproduce, and because they'll be passing that favorable characteristic onto their offspring, over time the population will grow to contain a larger frequency of that specific allele for repellent resistance. But now let's imagine that that termite colony had a very small gene pool, or even worse, they were all identical. Well then, it's either they all have the trait for repellent resistance and they all survive, or none of them have it and they all die. Even if they all survived, imagine if another selection pressure comes out, that population is still not going to make it. And there you have it. Now you know a little bit more about natural selection and how it works in the environment around us. To stay updated, why don't you hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you never miss a video again. Also, why don't you head over to our Instagram page where we post study tips and hacks for you to enjoy. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is Nigel, signing out.